Welcome everyone. In this video, we are going to talk about BGP Cluster List, one of the key attributes used by route reflectors to prevent routing loops inside an iBGP network. By the end of this video, you'll fully understand what a cluster list is, how it is built, and how BGP uses it to avoid loops. So remember, in normal iBGP, the split horizon rule prevents routing loops, but route reflectors bypass that rule to reduce full mesh peering. That improves scalability but create loop risks. That's where cluster list helps. So a cluster is a route reflector and its clients. By default, the cluster ID is the router ID of the route reflector itself. In large networks, you may have multiple clusters for redundancy purpose. So when we have multiple route reflectors in our network, they have to maintain full mesh iBGP sessions, and they have to reflect routes between the clusters. This creates a scalable hierarchy, but it also increases the risk of loops. So remember, the cluster ID is the BGP router ID of the route reflector itself. Cluster list is a BGP attribute. It carries the list of cluster IDs that the route has passed through. Every time a route reflector reflects a route, it adds its own cluster ID to the cluster list. We have the following example. Let's say a route starts in cluster 2. Route reflector RR2 adds its cluster ID 2.2.2.2. Then the route goes to RR3. RR3 checks the list. If its own cluster ID is not there, it accepts the route and adds its own ID 3.3.3.3. Now the route reaches RR1. RR1 checks the cluster list, adds its own cluster ID 1.1.1.1 and forwards it. But when the route returns to RR2, RR2 sees its own cluster ID in the list, so RR2 drops the route and loop is prevented. There is one important rule: only route reflectors add cluster lists. Client and non-clients do not create it, but they can still receive it. And in hierarchical designs, that information becomes important. So remember, the cluster list records all the cluster IDs of the route reflectors, and if an RR sees its own router ID in the BGP update message, it will drop the packet to prevent loops.